My ex-boyfriend told everyone I was pregnant with his child, but he never knew I could never have children. My name is Natalie Carter. I'm 31 years old, and for most of my life, I believe the hardest battle I would ever face had ended when I was 13. I was 11 when doctors diagnosed me with leukemia. For the next 2 years, hospitals became more familiar than my own bedroom. I learned the smell of antiseptic, the rhythm of infusion pumps, and the careful expressions adults wore when they were trying not to frighten a child. I learned to celebrate blood work that looked slightly better than the week before, and to smile at my mother even when chemotherapy left me too weak to sit up. By 13, I was in remission. Everyone called it a miracle, and they were right. I had survived something that might have killed me. But survival came with a cost. When I was 16, my oncologist asked my mother and me to sit down after a routine follow-up appointment. He held a folder against his knee and spoke with the measured gentleness doctors use when they know a patient's life is about to divide into before and after. The treatment saved you, he said, but it caused permanent damage to your reproductive system. At 16, I understood the words without understanding their weight. Years of follow-up testing made the diagnosis undeniable. The chemotherapy and radiation had caused permanent ovarian failure. Every specialist I saw reached the same conclusion. I could neither conceive naturally nor carry a pregnancy. I grieved that future quietly. By adulthood, the diagnosis had become something I carried rather than something I discussed. It wasn't first date conversation. It wasn't even second-year relationship conversation unless children became a serious topic. With Ethan Brooks, they never did. Ethan and I dated for 2 years. 4 months before everything began, I ended the relationship. There was no single explosive betrayal that pushed me out the door. It happened gradually, through hundreds of small moments that left me feeling less like a partner and more like someone living inside his preferences. Ethan chose where we ate, what we watched, and how we spent weekends. If I suggested something else, he would smile as though I had made a charming mistake. Come on, Nat, you know my idea makes more sense. When I wanted dinner with my sister Claire, he acted wounded. When I worked late, he accused me of prioritizing my career over us. When I made plans without consulting him, he would withdraw for hours until I apologized simply to restore peace. He wasn't openly cruel. That would have been easier to recognize. He was persuasive, exhausting, and skilled at making his disappointment feel like my failure. One evening, I sat across from him at dinner and realized I couldn't imagine spending another decade defending ordinary decisions. I ended it that night. Ethan cried. Then he called me impatient. Then selfish. Finally, he told me I was throwing away the best relationship I would ever have. I let him finish. I'm not angry, I said. I just don't see a future for us. We packed his belongings over the weekend. By Sunday afternoon, the last box was in his car. Before he drove away, he looked at me through the open window. You'll regret this. I watched his taillights disappear and felt something inside me unclench. For the next few months, my life became quiet again. Work felt easier. I saw Claire more often. I stopped checking my phone before making plans. I started laughing without wondering whether Ethan would interpret my happiness as neglect. Then an envelope arrived. It was cream-colored, addressed in Ethan's handwriting, with expensive stationery inside. Tiny blue flowers framed the page. The first line made no sense. Natalie, I know this will come as a shock, but I know you're pregnant with my child. We need to discuss co-parenting before you make any decisions without me. I read it twice, then a third time. I wasn't pregnant. I could not become pregnant. I hadn't seen Ethan in 4 months, and I had never told him I was expecting because there was nothing to tell. Yet the letter went on for nearly 2 pages. Ethan claimed I had concealed a pregnancy, abandoned him, and intended to deny him the right to be involved in his child's life. He wrote that he was prepared to handle this maturely if I cooperated. For 10 minutes, I sat at my kitchen table trying to identify the angle. He knew I had survived cancer. He knew about the chemotherapy and radiation. What he did not know was the full extent of the damage they had caused. I had never explicitly told him I was infertile. Children had always been a vague someday conversation between us. We never discussed timelines, treatment options, adoption, or the medical reality of my body. I had assumed we would cross that bridge if our relationship ever became permanent. It never did. That left me with 2 possibilities. Either Ethan had built the accusation around a rumor he wanted to believe, or he had invented the entire story because he knew it would force me to answer him. After 4 months of silence, a supposed pregnancy gave him a reason to drag himself back into my life, portray me as the cruel one, and punish me for leaving. The second explanation felt far more like Ethan. I folded the letter and placed it back inside the envelope. Then I sent one text. I received your letter. I am not pregnant. Before you make any further accusations, I suggest you obtain actual medical confirmation. His response arrived almost immediately. Are you serious? Another followed. After everything we've been through, you're going to lie to my face? Then, I know what I was told. Stop trying to erase me from my own child's life. I stared at the screen. Who had told him? I typed carefully. There is no child. If you believe otherwise, provide the medical evidence you are relying on. The typing indicator flashed on and off. You always do this. You hide behind technicalities instead of taking responsibility. My phone rang 3 times in less than a minute. I let every call go to voicemail. His recorded message lasted almost 2 minutes. How dare you treat me like I'm insane? I gave you 2 years of my life. I trusted you. Now I find out you're pregnant, and you're trying to shut me out because you're angry that we broke up. Maybe telling you I knew was a mistake, but I thought you'd finally be honest. He sounded furious, but beneath the anger was something rehearsed. I saved the voicemail. Then I created a folder on my laptop and copied every message into it. At the back of my bedroom closet sat a small fireproof lockbox I hadn't opened in years. Inside were childhood hospital bracelets, treatment summaries, old photographs, follow-up reports, and 3 separate fertility assessments completed when I was 16, 22, and 28. Every evaluation reached the same conclusion: permanent ovarian failure caused by childhood cancer treatment. I placed the handwritten letter beside those reports. The worst chapter of my childhood had just become the clearest answer to Ethan's lie. The following morning, I tried to go to work as though nothing had happened. By lunch, Ethan's mother was calling. Carol Brooks had always been warm toward me. She invited me to holidays, remembered my birthday, and once called me the daughter she never had. That version of Carol was gone when I answered. Natalie, I've been trying to reach you. I've been working. Ethan told me what you're doing. I looked through the glass wall of the conference room I had stepped into. What exactly did he say? That you're pregnant and refusing to let him be involved. I'm not pregnant. He says you're denying it because you don't want him back in your life. I don't. Carol inhaled sharply. That doesn't give you the right to keep a father away from his child. There is no child, Carol. You expect me to believe Ethan invented all of this? I almost answered honestly. Yes. Instead, I said, I'm not discussing a medical accusation over the phone. Ethan has been asked to provide proof. You asked your former boyfriend to prove you're pregnant? When someone makes a claim about my body, yes. She went quiet. I ended the call before she could recover. 5 minutes later, Ethan texted, My mother can't believe how cold you've become. Then, you always run when things get difficult. And finally, you'll regret humiliating me. By the end of the day, 14 unread messages waited on my phone. Some were furious. Others pleaded with me to do the right thing. One accused me of destroying the happiest moment of his life. The emotional swings were familiar. During our relationship, Ethan moved between guilt, outrage, and self-pity whenever he wanted control of a conversation. I muted him. That evening, Claire arrived with takeout and found me sitting at the dining table with Ethan's letter in front of me. She read the first paragraph, frowned, and started again from the beginning. He thinks you're pregnant? He says he knows I am. But you can't be. I know. Does he? He knows about the cancer. I never told him the rest. Claire placed the letter down carefully. Where did he get this idea? That's what worries me. She looked toward the hallway where the lockbox remained open on my bedroom floor. You still have all the reports? Everyone. Good. Don't argue with him. Don't explain more than you have to. Just keep everything. Her certainty steadied me. For 3 days, Ethan became quiet. The silence ended Thursday morning when a certified envelope arrived from a law firm. The letter stated that Ethan intended to protect his alleged parental rights and accused me of withholding material information about a pregnancy. His attorney requested written confirmation of my medical status and warned that any attempt to conceal or terminate a pregnancy without notifying Ethan could result in legal action. The wording was intimidating enough to make my hands cold, even though parts of it were legally absurd. A lie did not become credible merely because someone placed it on professional letterhead. Still, lawsuits cost money. Accusations damage reputations. Even ridiculous claims can consume months of a person's life. Claire came over that night and found the legal notice beside my oncology files. This isn't about a baby, I told her. What is it about? Control. He couldn't stop me from leaving, so he found a way to force himself back into my life. Claire read the letter again. Then don't fight him like an ex-girlfriend. Fight him like someone building a case. The next morning, I contacted the oncology clinic that had treated me since childhood and requested my complete history, including all post-treatment reproductive testing. 3 business days later, I collected a binder thick enough to strain the handles of my tote bag. It contained chemotherapy protocols, radiation summaries, specialist consultations, hormonal studies, imaging, and repeated assessments confirming that pregnancy was medically impossible. I sat in my car with the binder on the passenger seat and felt the past shift beneath my hands. For years, those pages had represented what cancer took from me. Now they represented certainty. That afternoon, I met Rebecca Lawson, a family law attorney recommended by one of Claire's colleagues. Rebecca listened without interrupting as I described the breakup, the handwritten letter, the texts, Carol's call, and the legal threat. When I finished, she asked, "Do you still have the original envelope?" Yes. The voicemail? Saved. Screenshots of every message? Yes. She opened the clinical binder and reviewed the first fertility assessment. These records are verifiable through your treating physicians? They are. Then Ethan's claims should collapse quickly. Should? Rebecca closed the binder. People don't always retreat when they're proven wrong. Some become more aggressive because retreat would require admitting what they've done. She began constructing a timeline. Before I left, she gave me one instruction. From now on, you don't debate Ethan. You don't defend yourself to his family, and you don't answer accusations emotionally. Send everything to me. That evening, Rebecca drafted a formal response. It stated that I was not pregnant and included certified clinical findings establishing that I was medically incapable of conceiving naturally. It demanded that Ethan withdraw his accusations and identify the source of the false information he claimed to possess. The final paragraph warned that continued harassment or knowingly false legal claims would result in counteraction. The package was delivered on Tuesday morning. What followed stretched across nearly 2 months, each week bringing another accusation, another letter, or another person who had been pulled into Ethan's story. For nearly a week after Rebecca's first response, however, nothing happened. No calls, no messages, no angry voicemail. The quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt strategic. The following Monday, Rebecca called. They answered. Did they withdraw? No, they're disputing your records. I set down my coffee. On what basis? They claim the evaluations are old and may no longer reflect your current condition. They're asking you to undergo an independent examination. I've had 3 assessments over 15 years. I know, they're buying time. Why? Because delay creates pressure. They may be hoping you'll pay something, sign something, or apologize simply to make them disappear. I won't. I didn't think you would. Rebecca's reply was concise. Every report could be authenticated through the hospital and treating physicians. If Ethan wished to pursue the matter in court, we welcome judicial review. The response also warned that continuing after receiving conclusive medical information could expose him to sanctions and liability for harassment. 2 evenings later, my apartment buzzer rang. Ethan's older sister, Emily, stood in the lobby. Emily and I had always gotten along. She wasn't especially close to Ethan, but she loved him in the resigned way older siblings sometimes love difficult younger brothers. I almost ignored the buzzer. Then she pressed it again. Please, Natalie, 5 minutes. I'm not here to fight. I led her upstairs but kept the door unlocked. The moment Emily sat down, her eyes filled. I'm sorry. I waited. My parents believed him. I believed him. I assumed you did. He told us you were pregnant, that someone at your doctor's office confirmed it, and that you were planning to cut him out. My skin went cold. Someone at my doctor's office? That's what he said. No one from my clinic would speak to him. I know that now. She wiped her face. After your attorney sent the hospital reports, I looked up the condition. I called a friend who works in women's health. There's no reasonable way Ethan's story could be true. No. Emily lowered her voice. I don't think this started with the letter. What do you mean? There's a woman at his office. She explained that Ethan had mentioned the coworker constantly for several months. Then, without explanation, he stopped using her name altogether. Late meetings and unexpected overtime came back to me. So did the calls he took on the balcony and the way he turned his phone face down whenever I walked into the room. I confronted him yesterday, Emily said. He accused me of choosing you over my own brother. When I asked where he got the pregnancy information, he started screaming. What did he say? That everyone was against him. Then he told me to get out. Emily stared at the floor. I think he cheated on you. The possibility hurt less than I expected. It didn't create a new wound. It explained an old one. Before she left, Emily stopped at the door. I wanted you to know you're not imagining this. He's lying about something. Maybe all of it. Friday afternoon, my landlord called. Someone had contacted him claiming I was running an illegal business from my apartment, making threats and disturbing neighbors late at night. Mark had rented to me for 4 years and did not believe the accusations, but he was obligated to follow up. I forwarded the details to Rebecca. By Saturday, the retaliation had moved beyond my building. A message arrived from an unfamiliar number. Hi, Natalie. I work with Ethan. This is awkward, but I think you should know what he's telling people. The sender explained that Ethan had portrayed himself as a future single father whose pregnant ex-girlfriend had abandoned him. Coworkers had donated money, baby clothes, and furniture. Then the screenshots arrived. An office-wide email described me as emotionally unstable and determined to keep Ethan from his child. He asked for used baby supplies and financial help because he was preparing a loan. I forwarded everything to Rebecca. This changes the picture, she said. How? He isn't simply making a private legal claim. He's using it to collect money and damage your reputation. He contacted my landlord too, which helps establish retaliation. Within 2 days, 3 more employees contacted me. One had donated $50 for a car seat. Another had given Ethan a bassinet. A third had begun organizing a baby shower at the office. I sent each person the same brief reply. I am not pregnant. My medical condition makes pregnancy impossible. My attorney is handling Ethan's false claims. By Monday morning, Ethan's story was unraveling inside his workplace. The larger collapse began with the coworker Emily had mentioned. She called me 3 days later. Everything is falling apart. What happened? The woman from Ethan's office is married. I sat down. Her husband works at the same company, Emily continued. The affair has been going on for about 8 months. Ethan and I had separated 4 months earlier. The calculation required no effort. He had been sleeping with her while we were together. What does that have to do with the pregnancy story? After your attorney sent the fertility records, she started messaging him constantly. She thought he was trying to distract everyone from their affair. What did she say? Things like, "You can't keep ignoring me," and "You created this mess." His new girlfriend saw the messages. His new girlfriend? He started dating someone else a few weeks after you broke up. I closed my eyes. Ethan had cheated on me with a married coworker, begun dating another woman after our separation, and then constructed a fake pregnancy story about me. Emily continued. The girlfriend confronted him. Then the coworker's husband found out. He saw the messages and checked the phone records. Now both relationships are exploding at the same time. What is Ethan saying? That everyone misunderstood him. Of course. That afternoon, Rebecca received a request from Ethan's attorney for more time. They're trying to control the damage, she said. Their client's credibility is collapsing. 2 days later, a new legal threat arrived. Ethan accused me of defamation. According to his attorney, sharing my reproductive history had humiliated him and damaged his professional standing. Rebecca read the letter twice before setting it aside. He told half his workplace you were pregnant. You corrected the accusation with accurate information. Truthful statements made in self-defense are not defamation. So this goes nowhere? It goes into our file as another attempt to pressure you. That weekend, Emily visited again. My parents know about the affair now, she said. Dad confronted Ethan. How did that go? He denied it until Dad showed him screenshots. Then he blamed you. For the affair? For exposing him. For sending the medical information. For turning people against him. Emily's expression tightened. My father asked him, if Natalie is lying, why are you afraid of her hospital reports? Ethan couldn't answer. Her mother cried. Her father walked out. The family that had once demanded I take responsibility was now asking Ethan where the pregnancy claim had come from. He still refused to say. By Monday, Ethan had changed law firms. Rebecca believed the first firm had recognized the danger of continuing a case built on a fabricated medical accusation, workplace fundraising, and retaliatory complaints. The new attorney spent 2 weeks reviewing the file. Their first letter did not contain an apology. Instead, it offered to end the dispute if I met 3 conditions. I had to provide Ethan with a written apology for the emotional distress I had caused him. I had to pay $15,000. And I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement promising never to discuss the matter. Rebecca finished reading and looked at me across the conference table. They want you to pay him for proving you weren't pregnant. I stared at the letter. He accused me, contacted my landlord, lied to his family, collected money from coworkers, and threatened me with court. Yes. And now I owe him an apology? That is their position. What's yours? We reject everything. Our response traced the entire sequence. The handwritten accusation, the messages, the legal demands, the harassment, the fundraising campaign, the false report to my landlord, and Ethan's refusal to identify the source of his alleged information. Rebecca stated that any disclosure of my condition had been necessary to defend myself. Ethan had voluntarily spread the pregnancy story to family members, co-workers, my landlord, and other third parties. He could not publicly accuse me, profit from the accusation, and then demand damages when I disproved it. The final paragraph warned that further frivolous action would result in counterclaims for harassment, legal costs, reputational damage, and attempted fraud. Send it, I said. The letter went out Thursday morning. By Friday afternoon, Carol Brooks sent me a message. Natalie, I owe you an apology. I believed my son without asking questions, and I said things I should not have said. I know now that you were telling the truth. You do not need to respond. I only wanted to acknowledge what I did. I read it twice and placed my phone face down. Claire, sitting across from me, asked, Do you forgive her? I understand her, I said. That isn't the same thing. Carol had wanted to believe her son. Eventually, believing him required ignoring too much. The workplace fallout followed quickly. Human Resources reviewed Ethan's emails and interviewed employees who had donated money or baby items. Several asked for their contributions back. One woman filed a complaint because Ethan had pressured her to help organize a shower after she initially declined. He wasn't fired, but he was transferred to another department, stripped of client-facing responsibilities, and removed from a management track he had spent years trying to enter. The office stopped treating him like an abandoned father and began treating him like a man who had collected sympathy donations for a pregnancy that did not exist. Emily described an all-hands meeting where HR reminded employees not to solicit money under false pretenses. No one used Ethan's name, but everyone knew why the meeting had been called. The married coworker was transferred as well. Her husband filed for divorce after reviewing months of messages and hotel charges. Ethan's new girlfriend ended their relationship and sent Emily a single message before blocking the family. I wish I had known what kind of man he was before I believed anything he said about Natalie. Ethan blamed me for all of it. He told his parents I had ruined his career. He accused Emily of betraying him. He claimed the married coworker had manipulated him and that his new girlfriend had never trusted him. Everyone was responsible except Ethan. A few days later, Rebecca called. They've withdrawn the claims. All of them? All pending legal action. They still complain about emotional harm, but there are no demands, no payment request, and no lawsuit. I should have felt victorious. Mostly, I felt tired. For nearly 2 months, I had carried my phone from room to room, expecting another accusation. I had slept badly, checked my locks twice, and saved every message as though my life depended on it. Now the noise was ending. 3 days later, Emily texted, "Dad asked me to tell you he wishes he had listened sooner. He said losing someone honest may be the biggest mistake Ethan ever made." Months earlier, those words might have felt like vindication. Now they felt like an obituary for a relationship I no longer wanted. The final letter arrived on a Tuesday morning. Rebecca asked me to come to her office. The new firm wrote that Ethan's claims concerning my alleged pregnancy had been made in error and that no further action would be pursued. Made in error. The phrase reduced weeks of deliberate pressure to the level of a clerical mistake. "It wasn't an error," I said. "He chose this." "I agree," Rebecca replied. "Their job is to end the matter without admitting intent." The letter requested that I refrain from discussing the situation publicly. Do I have to agree? No, they have no leverage left. Rebecca asked whether I wanted to pursue reimbursement for legal expenses or seek a formal admission of wrongdoing. I considered it. Ethan had cost me money, sleep, and peace. Part of me wanted a signed statement naming every lie. A larger part wanted him out of my life. "I'm done," I said. "A real ending is worth more to me than another fight." We sent a brief acknowledgement confirming receipt. I signed no confidentiality agreement, offered no apology, and surrendered none of my right to tell my own story. 2 days later, Emily called for the last time. "Ethan finally admitted where the pregnancy story came from," she said. I sat down. "There was never anyone from my clinic, was there?" "No, he invented that part." The answer did not surprise me, but hearing it still made my stomach turn. Emily continued, "After you ended the relationship, people at work started asking why. He couldn't stand admitting that you had left him, so he told them you were pregnant and refusing to let him be involved. At first, he only wanted sympathy, and a reason to frighten you into speaking to him again. He admitted he picked pregnancies because he knew it was the one accusation that would force you to answer him. By then, it was too late. Coworkers had already donated money, baby clothes, and furniture. If he admitted he'd invented the pregnancy, everyone would have discovered the affair, the fundraising scam, and every lie he'd told. So he just kept digging himself deeper. And the affair? The coworker admitted it had been going on for months. Ethan used the pregnancy scandal to distract people from rumors about them. As long as everyone was talking about his cruel pregnant ex, no one was asking why he kept disappearing with a married woman. I closed my eyes. The accusation had never come from confusion. Ethan had created it to punish me, protect himself, and collect sympathy. When the lie became profitable, he kept feeding it. Emily let out a tired breath. The coworker believed Ethan would leave you for her. When you ended the relationship first, he promised they could finally be together. Did they? No. Once everything came out, he stopped answering her calls. The woman had helped him betray me, and he abandoned her the moment the consequences became inconvenient. Ethan's parents still spoke to him, but the relationship had changed. His father rarely stayed in the same room with him. Carol helped with practical matters when he asked, though she no longer defended him automatically. They still love him, Emily said, but he has made it impossible for them to trust him. That was the consequence Ethan could not blame on anyone else. Jobs could be replaced, and legal bills could eventually be paid, but every conversation with his family would now begin with doubt. Before ending the call, Emily said, "For what it's worth, I don't think he learned anything." "He doesn't have to," I said. "I'm not part of his life anymore." "No," she answered, "you're not." I changed my phone number the following week. The lockbox in my closet became heavier. It now held Ethan's original letter, every message, every voicemail, all correspondence from the law firms, the workplace screenshots, my clinical reports, and Rebecca's final acknowledgement. I hoped I would never need any of it again. One Saturday afternoon, while reorganizing the box, I found a photograph of myself at 13 outside the children's cancer ward. My hair had only begun growing back. My clothes hung loosely from my shoulders, but I was smiling at the camera. At 16, being told I would never become pregnant felt like losing a future before I had even imagined it clearly. I mourned children who had never existed. I wondered what kind of mother I might have been and what version of adulthood had been taken from me. For years, those specialist reports represented only loss. Then Ethan tried to use a false pregnancy to drag me back under his control, and the same history I had grieved became the one thing he could not explain away. Cancer took more from me than I can ever measure, and infertility was one of those losses. I would never call either of them a blessing. But years later, the records they left behind protected me when someone tried to rewrite my life with a lie. I'm not dating anyone now. Perhaps I will eventually. When I do, I will have difficult conversations earlier, not because I owe strangers my medical history, but because silence leaves space for assumptions, and assumptions can become weapons in the wrong hands. Friends sometimes ask whether I regret ending things with Ethan. I don't. I regret how long I ignored the pattern. Leaving him did not ruin my life. It revealed what he was capable of before I tied my future more closely to his. My apartment still looks much as it did when the first letter arrived. The same windows face the parking lot. The same kitchen table stands beneath the pendant light. The fireproof box remains at the back of my closet. The apartment is quiet again, but it no longer feels like the silence before Ethan's next demand. I can make plans, leave my phone in another room, and go through an entire evening without expecting someone to accuse me of something that never happened. That was what healing looked like for me. I could wake up without fearing my phone, make plans without asking anyone's permission, and finally stop trying to convince people who had already chosen not to believe me. Keep the records that matter. Save messages when something feels wrong. Do not let guilt force you to accept a life-changing accusation without verification. An honest claim can survive questions. Ethan's could not.